The next presentation is titled Their Tree Crews, Your Veg Dashboard, Smart Visual Compliance with TreeAction. The presentation is made by Deepak Swamy, founder and CEO of iRestore. And he's apparently being joined by Jared Hennen.
So, good afternoon to everybody here on the East Coast, and good morning wherever you are. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about TreeAction and the topic that Randy just introduced around vegetation management compliance. What I'm gonna be doing today is, since Jared Hennen of Bear Valley Electric was unable to join us today, I was able to record a video interview with him yesterday, which I am going to be playing for the attendees. So my plan today is to go through a brief presentation, followed by the video with Jared, who is the wildfire risk mitigation engineer and vegetation management manager at Bear Valley Electric, a small utility, investor-owned utility in California, and followed by a demo of a couple of our applications for this area. So that's the plan here, and certainly hope to leave some time for questions at the end. So, you know, as Alan, the previous presenter, was talking about, utility reliability and wildfire risk mitigation, both of those require proactive vegetation management. This is one of the largest operational expense areas, as you all know, within the utility sector, and it has kind of a double whammy, twofold effect. One is that tree intrusion into, as we see it during storm events, into the network causes significant reliability and safety impacts. On the other hand, during blue sky, vegetation management departments really struggle with the deluge of regulatory compliance and reporting requirements when it comes to essentially documenting their veg management and compliance program, and then reporting compliance as required to the state regulators. So this is essentially what my topic is going to be today. How do we do this in a manner that is easier, that simplifies things for the utility, that solves this tough problem that utilities have around managing all of their compliance requirements for vegetation management? Just a quick introduction to iRestore. Utilities across the United States that serve over 15 million meters already use and rely on every day iRestore applications, both for blue sky and storm operations. These applications, and there's about a dozen of them, all running on a common iRestore cloud platform, streamline how utility workers inspect during blue sky, and during storms restore the distribution system out there. And certainly, so for more information, I would invite you to go to iRestore.co, which is our website. So the presentation today is about two new applications, or really a suite of applications around digital vegetation management that utilities utilize. One, and the name for that suite is called TreeAction. So there's two applications under TreeAction. One is what we call the TreeAction Inventory application, and that application is designed to help utilities manage, automate, and simplify their blue sky vegetation management compliance. So the basic concept here, and the title of today's session, which is Their Crews, Your Veg Management Dashboard, has to do with this concept of crowdsourcing. So you've heard about crowdsourcing in your consumer life. You know, it's obviously a big trend that we see out there. What we're doing with these applications is really putting that power of crowdsourcing to work for the utility. Utilities always struggle with getting accurate and timely data from the field when it comes to the completion of the vegetation, the tree trimming work that goes on in the field. So essentially, by providing a very simple smartphone or mobile device application to the tree crews, and these are almost always third-party contractors that are performing the vegetation or tree trimming work on behalf of the utility. We make it possible for the utility to crowdsource all of the data from the field using a very, very simple application that already hundreds of tree crews for some of the major tree companies that work with the utilities are already using out there. So those applications provide real-time data as the tree crews are performing the trim work. That data comes into a consolidated geospatial awareness portal that vegetation managers can utilize to kind of manage and oversee their entire vegetation management program. So that's what TreeAction is all about, and you're going to hear in just a minute Jared of Bear Valley Electric talking about how it's helping them automate and simplify their vegetation compliance. The other application that we have in the suite has to do with what we call TreeAction outages. So when outages occur because a tree or a tree limb came down on wires, there's a lot of data required for a utility to analyze what caused the outage. Was it, something that was within the trim zone or outside the trim zone? Was it a dead or living tree? What was the nature of the tree outage? And that data can be utilized to then drive both better vegetation management strategies going forward to cope with and reduce the incidence of outages, but also use it to actually perform corrective actions, request the regulators for relief or additional funding based on the type of outages caused by these fallen trees. So there's two different applications, but both utilize the same underlying concept of crowdsourcing, which is the concept that the tree crew or the actual crew foreman for the tree company provides the data using a very simple application. The vegetation manager is in control with a dashboard where they can see all that information coming in. So that is really what TreeAction is all about. Whoops, sorry. Let me see here. For some reason. And I will put this slide up at the end. So if you'd like more information, certainly we'd encourage you to visit the website. With that said, I'm going to switch over to the video that I'm going to play that talks about how Bear Valley Electric in California is benefiting from the TreeAction application. So just give me a second here.
Jared Hennen is the Wildfire Mitigation and Reliability Engineer at Bear Valley Electric, located in Big Bear, California, a small mountain town outside of Los Angeles. Jared's been with BVES for almost 2 years. Before coming to BVES, Jared was a utility firefighter for many years, all across the West. Welcome, Jared. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So Jared, maybe just before we get started, tell us what was that like being a utility firefighter before you started with BVES?
Yeah, sure. So we were contract firemen for any utility that needed us. So we would go around to possibly active fires and help line crews and stuff do their work in a fire zone, or we would also do standby for high weather threat days, so red flag days, high wind warning days. We would watch them, make sure they didn't start a fire. That's really where I kind of got into utilities, because before that I was just a regular firefighter. And it piqued my interest, and I thought it was a good avenue to kind of get into the utilities and wildfire mitigation. So that's kind of the reason I'm here where I am today.
That's great. That's great. And so was that across California, or was that across the, where did you do all of that work, fighting fires?
Mostly in California, but we do stuff in Arizona, Utah, so pretty much anywhere companies needed us.
Wow, that's great. At BVES, could you describe kind of what your roles and area of
responsibilities are at BVES. I know that they professionalize, I mean, that they significantly ramped up the vegetation management processes with you leading that now. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so we're not a very large utility. We only have about 25,000 customers. So everybody that works here wears many different hats. A large role of mine is everything vegetation. So I currently have 4 full-time crews running. I have a utility arborist and a pre-inspector. I run all inspection programs, so we have a UAV inspection, a third-party ground patrol inspection, also a LiDAR inspection. And then I also do collection for anything that any regulator might need. So outages and any kind of inspection problem, level 1, level 2 findings, pretty much anything you can think of, I also collect that data.
That's a pretty broad set of responsibilities. So when you talk about regulatory compliance, what are some of the important compliance challenges that you've faced in this role with regard to managing the vegetation program at BVES?
As of now, it's that everything is so new. So even the regulators aren't really sure what they want. So they'll come out and say they want this amount of data that we've never collected. So we have to kind of find a way to either collect that data or figure out a way moving forward to start collecting that data. It's just uncharted territory is the biggest obstacle for us because there's so many different people watching us to make sure that we don't start a fire and our reliability is, you know, a good level for the area and the other utilities in our area.
Yeah, yeah. So when you started to work with iRestore on the new TreeAction inventory app, what was the vision? What was some of the ideas that you tossed around that you were looking to solve in terms of gathering some of that data?
For us, it was easy to access information right now. So currently we have 3 different systems collecting data. So, and it's not the easiest to access, and we have to update computers. So we have to have all the tree crews bring in their computers right now, and then we have to update the system. So having iRestore, we want it now, and that's kind of the biggest goal for us. We just need everything in one spot and whenever we need it.
Got it. Got it. And then what about kind of that whole move towards mobile and working with the tree crews where they're not going to need a computer anymore? They're going to provide the information from a mobile device. Is that something that you feel the tree companies or the tree crews are going to embrace more readily in your mind?
Yeah, it definitely just makes everything a lot easier. The computers are kind of bulky and outdated, I want to say. So having it either on their phone or an iPad's a lot easier. Then just they'll definitely love it because now they don't have to spend time bringing in the computers, and then so everything is going to be a lot easier, and they don't have to go through our IT with the computers. They can use their own devices, which is a big headache when they have to use logins and stuff like that. So I think it would just be easier on everybody. Yeah.
And then what about you and your team in the company within BVES? You anticipate that as they provide that information, having real-time access to that information, is that going to make your life a little bit easier or better as far as all of the reporting and all of the data that you've got to provide to the regulators?
Oh yeah, definitely. So anytime they see something that needs to be corrected ASAP, having a pinpoint
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle of the forest, there's a lot of trees. So having a pinpoint location, a picture, hey, we need line covers at this exact location so we can do our work immediately. Cuts a lot of time off.
Yeah.
And that's huge, especially say there is a high wind advisory or something like that. We need to correct it ASAP. So, and we're such a small company that we don't have a whole team of people to go out there. Pretty much the vegetation department is just me, you know,
Yeah.
and my tree. So having that access for me without it being difficult and spending a couple hours trying to figure out data is huge.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot going on all the time.
Right. Right. That's great. And then what's, any words about how has the partnership been so far working with iRestore? What's your experience been working with iRestore?
So the biggest thing for me is that iRestore hasn't been selling a product that they made for somebody else. They came to me and we're designing exactly what I want and what we need, which is the best part about it. Every time I need or have a new idea or a regulator comes up with something new, I go to Deepak or the team and it's okay, yep, we'll start working on it. It's immediately, and so it's good to have it's a good partnership without any pushback. When I need that data, it's sometimes, oh, I don't know, we can do that, or it's been all, yeah, no problem, we'll get working on that.
Well, that's great, Jared. That, I think, brings us to the conclusion of this here. So really appreciate your time.
Really
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much, Jared.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks again. I appreciate it, Jared.
So what I'm showing you here is the application that tree crews utilize to actually provide information into Bear Valley Electric. There's a lot of technology built into a very simple application, including we're working on a new machine vision capability, barcoding for trees, augmented reality. So there's a lot going in here, but I'll show you the very simple use case where they're really required to geofence and manage trim program based on, as trees grow, creating a risk for intrusion into the distribution network. So really very, very simple interface for tree crews. And again, this is available to them both in English and in Spanish. Sorry about that. Because a significant number of tree crews are actually Spanish speaking. So let's see a second here. So they go in, and as they're performing their work, they have a very, very simple interface. And again, we're adding machine vision into this, species recognition, for example, but very, very straightforward interface where they're providing documentation, including photos before and after of as they perform the tree work. And as they're providing this information, the utility has the ability, so automatically it's logging essentially the type of cut, when the next trim is due, and some trees are on a 3-year cycle. It automatically detects for certain species when they're on the 1-year fast-growing cycle and need trimming. It automatically flags and color codes, these tree inspections and trim dates, so that there's that from the utility standpoint, they know what they've got to get to first, right? In terms of prioritizing the trees by trim cycle, by circuit. So all of that data comes in automatically through this crowdsourcing concept into the utility. They could look at all the trim history. So they typically, when they go into the site, they're taking a picture before the trim work is done, saving that, and then uploading kind of the completed work. So you got a before and after, and that's saved with every touch point that the tree crew has. in terms of collecting that data. So all of that's available so that if there's, not only does the utility have access to that, the forestry department, the veg management department has their own QA QC capability where they could go in and essentially look for different level violations, level 1, level 2, level 3 violations of and audit the trim work that the utility, that the tree company has performed. So that really is the extent of the TreeAction inventory application. We're building basically an automated camera interface that adds augmented reality into that, right? So you're actually just using the camera interface, the menu buttons for the tree crew pop up in English and Spanish right within the camera interface. We're really seeing that the tree company, utility field personnel tend to be on iPads. We see that a lot. And however, the tree crews, almost all of them are using phones out there, primarily iPhones or Android phones. And we have a mix of company provided devices and personal devices, or what they call bring your own device. And so with that capability, you're really able to get data from virtually every single tree crew out there. They're provisioned with the application in minutes, and they have the ability to submit this data into the utility, right? And so I'll show you the power of that data as it comes into to the utility, in terms of once you have thousands of data points coming in from the field, you now have a very potent source of information that can drive strategy for future vegetation management strategies, performance management of your different vegetation management vendors or tree companies, and a host of different uses, including requesting additional vegetation management funding from your regulators. So all of those are possible with the data that this application provides, right? So I'm showing you another example of how the geospatial awareness, factors in from this. This is from a different application that we have deployed called their first responder application for National Grid here in the Northeast where I'm based. And what they're able to do is both during blue sky as well as during storm events, be able to pull up, geospatial views of everywhere that they've had these, tree on wires events. They're able to zoom right into where, that's occurred, actually look at what that looks like on a blue sky day, look at their infrastructure, and then also look at, what's been reported, in this case, by first responders, right? So in this case, they have the ability to actually go in and visualize this. So even before the first line crew or tree crew gets to the scene, we have information coming into the utility, including pictures from the scene, that can help them determine what type of resource do we send, what type of equipment do we need to send to the scene. The TreeAction suite of applications helps the utility on that front really be able to prioritize, be able to pinpoint the nature of the damage to the system, the cause of the damage, and then determine the type and number or type of resource that they need to send to solve the problem. So with that being said, I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. I've been talking a lot about compliance and how TreeAction can help utilities with their compliance requirements. I'm going to switch gears now and talk about TreeAction Outages, which is focused on helping a utility improve the reliability from their vegetation management department, in terms of reducing outages caused by trees. So I'll just show you, and then again, this includes a lot of some of that crowdsourced data that I was talking about. So let me go to full screen mode here. So we have a large Northeast-based utility that deployed the TreeAction Outages application, and they were really under significant pressure from their regulator because of large numbers of tree-related outages occurring on their system, and on improving their response as and when those outages occurred, including coordinating between the line crews and the tree crews and so on. So we launched this new application in a matter of about 4 months of starting to work with this utility, and they have it rolled out, and we've rolled it out to about 300 tree crews who provided crowdsourced information when tree-on-wire, tree-related outages occurred, negatively impacting the utility's reliability numbers. And so this is the type of insight and analytics and data that becomes possible when you get data from an application like TreeAction. So what the utility is able to do is to actually model when outages occur that are tree-related, right? What proportion of them are caused by tree-on-wires that fell literally from completely outside of the utility trim zone, right? And again, the trim zone can vary based on the town or the voltage, but they can determine very quickly using the system what percentage are from out of trim zone, what percentage are in trim zone, were caused by tree-on-wires within the trim zone within the current year trim cycle, right? And as you could see, almost 90% of outages were outside of the current year trim cycle trim zone. So what the utility is able to do is actually have data to go back to the regulator on what some of these causes of tree-related outages are. And here in the Northeast and other parts of the U.S. as well, you can have outages with thousands and thousands of tree-on-wires. And so what this does is provide that next level of information or data or insight as to what's really driving this. And obviously a picture is worth a thousand words. So the pictures really serve, and these are coming in from the tree crews, right? As they perform the work, as they clear the trees, they have the ability to actually provide the utility with pictorial data supporting the utility's claims in terms of being able to respond in a timely fashion to resolve these issues, right? So here's one example of a tree coming straight across the roadway down on wires, causing an outage, and many pictures like that, right? So large diameter trees. So this really you could see, and what the system's able to do is to flag, what the size of the trunk diameter, the species, again, so you could have corrective actions or different trim strategies for different species, for different locales, based on the data that TreeAction provides. But it's very evident when you look at the data that, hey, these are non-preventable outages given, so the only way that this outage could have been prevented is if that tree were to have been removed, right, rather than the trimming that normally goes on. So these are just some additional photos to bolster that case when there is an analysis or a post, after action analysis or reporting that's done between the utility, other stakeholders, and the regulator to show really that this is kind of what we were dealing with Mother Nature. And all this data comes in automatically, right, from the tree crews. It identifies and pinpoints the exact location where the tree crew was performing their work. It provides these photographs. It provides all the data about the nature of the issue. And the other use of this, obviously, is that when you have blue sky, and you actually see blue sky here in the photos, where you have essentially dead trees, right? And this is a big problem with certain species of tree, such as the ash tree, that significant numbers of these large trees come down through blue sky days and cause outages. So utilities have separate budgets typically provided by the state regulator to deal with tree removal, dead tree removal. So data from TreeAction outages can help bolster the case for expanding funding for dead tree removal programs that utilities have in place. So these pictures tell that story of how that really is an increasing need out there in the marketplace, right? So ultimately, what does TreeAction do on TreeAction Outages do? It really provides valuable vegetation management data with GPS tagged photos, crowdsourced from the tree crews that are performing the actual work out there in the field. And so what does that all mean? Essentially, the utility is able to do a better job of after storm analysis of tree outages, drill down into the data by species, by location, by cause, provide evidence of the fact that a lot of these outages are non-preventable on the state PUC docket. So certainly from a compliance standpoint, demonstrate that the tree trimming programs are effective, right? And share that with stakeholders, including the towns that the utility operates in, the county, the state, and the PUC, the regulator. And also the data can be used to enhance and inform future year trim programs. As far as the blue sky tree failure data, it allows the utility to actually then analyze that data, drill down into that data, help capture the impacts of dead trees on blue sky reliability. There's metrics there that go into that. And ultimately then this particular utility was able to use data to support or extend or request their significant hazard tree removal program. And ultimately what, the intention is that the tool, it can be used as a performance tool to manage the performance of these contractors, right? So very simple, elegant, but highly capable mobile application that runs on the tree crew's devices. It knows their, which company they're with, what the role of the tree foreman is. It has their truck information. So as soon as they arrive on the scene, it captures essentially all the information about, the GPS information, the role, the truck number, the contractor name. So all of that is captured instantaneously. They go through literally in about 10 seconds, provide certain data points regarding, the tree outage that they have. And that's available in real time to the utility vegetation management department. The other important point I wanted to point out is that for the TreeAction inventory application that I described earlier during Blue Sky and the TreeAction outages application, both of those can operate in completely offline mode, allowing for tree crews to provide the data. And if they are offline, they don't have cellular connectivity, it'll save locally on the device, synchronize automatically with the cloud when they are online again. So the utility might at most have a short lag of time between when the tree company provided the data and when the utility received all of this data, right? So so this just shows you essentially some of that functionality, a lot of rich data coming in to the utility vegetation management department as the tree crews clear those outages. So the utility is able to verify and document that the tree crew arrived on a timely basis from when they were dispatched. They get situational awareness, they get photos from the scene, they can determine the species, the cause of the outage, the trim zone data, and going forward, they can prioritize better, respond better by assigning work more effectively and evaluating the data that the tree companies are providing them. That brings me to the conclusion of our presentation here. Let me just pull up our final slide that I have at TreeAction, and I will be happy to answer any questions at this point.
Okay, we have a, thank you very much for the presentation. Excellent, excellent example of automation in this very traditional industry.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, here's a question. Is the property owner liable for removal costs? Is the property owner entitled to keep the dead cleared tree to use for firewood or fences?
I think that's a great question. I think the answer to that is certainly going to depend on the individual utilities policy. Certainly, it depends on where the tree is located, right? Whether it's on a public right-of-way and the ownership of where it is. If it's on private property, as you know, the utilities do their best or certainly will get the homeowner's permission prior to tree removal or tree trimming. And one of the items on the roadmap that we have with TreeAction is the ability to actually take that, what's known as the customer refusals database. So essentially there is a correlation between obviously homeowners refusing tree removal or tree trimming, and then obviously the incidence of reduced reliability or increased outages. And so what we're doing is actually layering that customer refusal data from again, we're providing this software, the applications to a utility and to their contractors. So as they interact with homeowners and get their permission to trim those trees where it's on private property, they're recording customer refusal of a trim request or a removal request. And so we're able to overlay that removal data geospatially with the data on their trim program, so they could see how customer refusals impact reliability. So I don't know if that answers the question directly. As far as the ownership or clearance, so those are again things that are going to vary jurisdiction to jurisdiction and utility to utility.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, that was a good presentation. Thank you for the question also from Peter and Nicholas.